Welcome back to Lone Wolf Masters of Darkness book something or other. So this is the final book of the Magna Chi series. Actually, let's just have a look. Masters of Darkness, Magna Chi. And after I finish Magna Chi, we'll probably take a big break from this and come back in the future to do Grandmaster onwards, because I need a break from this. I tried to finish this before Advent of Code last month. Didn't manage. Anyway, so we've beaten whatever the last book was. That was a nasty, horrible book. We came out with a bunch of things, some arrows. Okay, so let's continue. You are the warrior Lone Wolf, last of the Kai Masters of Summerland and sole survivor of the massacre that destroyed your kinsmen during a bitter war with your age-old enemies, the Dark Lords of Helgadad. We don't need to read all this because this was the same every time. So basically, we want to find the crystal, not crystals, the lore stones. There's, what, 7 of them? 5 of them? The lore stones of Nixator. 7 of them, okay. And then we went to all these places to find the various lore stones. And then we ended up in the Dazian Plain, which is another universe altogether. We got the final 2 lore stones. We defeated the Chaos Master. And Sirocco gave us the Shadowgate back home. But Vonatar managed to grab the last lore stone. But we defeated him, we got the last lore stone. So we're like Magna Chi now. Or were we already? I don't know. And we've stepped through back to our home world, I suppose. Alright. I think I've been reading this wrong all this time. If you have successfully completed any of the previous adventures in the Lone Wolf series, so if you die, I don't think you actually lose everything. And start fresh. I think you still get the items that you had from previous books. It's just really ambiguously worded. So I think we actually get to keep this stuff from now on. I guess I should have been doing this all along. That would have helped a lot. Oh. But the thing is not coded properly, so it doesn't... when you click restart, it doesn't... I don't know. Well, we'll make a hard save here in case we want to return to it. We've already got these skills. We could choose one more. Are we carrying something? Sword and bow. Alright, well, I don't know. What's common? Spear. So we've got curing, got hunt mastery. I suppose we can take animal control because that will give us the law circle of light. Oh no, there's no point taking the circle of light. We should start going for the circle of Solaris, I suppose. So we'll go for pathmanship. Before you leave Toran and begin your fateful mission, Banadon gives you a map of the Darklands and a pouch of gold. Wait, I don't even know what we're doing. Where are we? Take 6 items. Alright. What have we got? We've got rope and lantern and then these things. So... lantern. I suppose we can take the potion. Another quiver. Another rope? I don't know. Another rope, another lantern. Bunch of meals. Alright. Alright, so next time, when we get to Grandmaster, we will save our progress, so we'll actually be will actually be the next level for each book. Because that's kind of what they're expecting you to do, but I didn't really understand. Because they didn't explain it properly. So every time I've just been starting from the beginning again. Alright. Alright, here we go. We'll make a save here. So we just reload from this save every time. I don't know which number book. Oh, it's 12. Alright. We start. Upon entering the Shadowgate, you are submerged in total darkness and fall into a lightless void. Relentlessly, you are buffeted and numbed by an intense coldness that drains the strength from your body and fills your mind with strange, dreamlike images. It is as if you are being sucked into the heart of a swirling black abyss, and as your senses fade, you pray you have enough strength to survive your return to Magnamund. Barely a flicker of consciousness remains when the sensation of warmth returns to your frozen limbs. It revives you, and slowly you become aware of a fluorescent mist and a pinpoint of light in the far distance. The sensation of falling is replaced by a smooth forward movement as you are gliding to a halt at the end of a steep slide. Rapidly, the tiny light grows larger until suddenly you emerge from the darkness and find yourself standing in a place that you recognize immediately. We lose 8 endurance points. Great, okay. With your heart pounding in anticipation, you cast your gaze around the grey granite walls of a subterranean vault. Your journey through the Shadow Gate has returned you to the land of your birth. You're standing in the externment chamber, a room located deep below the guild hall of the Crystal Star in Toran. Facing you and illuminated by the glow of several tall candles is a line of throne-like seats. Two men, both attired in silken robes, are seated at the center of the row, their heads bowed and their hands clasped in silent prayer. The sound of your footsteps stirs them from their meditations, and as they raise their heads, you recognize the face of your friend Banadon and your tutor, Lord Rimoa, speaker for the High Council of the Elder Magi. "The gods be praised," breathes Rimoa, his eyes wide with astonishment. "Skarn has returned. The prophecy is fulfilled." Slowly they rise and step forward to greet you, their movements hesitant and uncertain, scarcely able to believe that you are alive. Calmly you assure them that they are not dreaming, that you have indeed survived your exile to the Dazian Plain, and have returned, more determined than ever, to avenge yourself upon Dark Lord Gnag. Eagerly, Rimoa and Banadon listen as you recount your experiences in the Dazian, and when you have finished, they tell you what has befallen Magnamon during your absence. Although it seemed that you spent little more than a few days in the Dazian, more than 8 years have passed since Gnag caused you to fall into the Shadow Gate of Torgal. 8 years? I've been falling for 8 years. He was quick to proclaim your death, says Banadon, unfurling a map of northern Magnamond upon the floor of the chamber. The news came as a terrible blow to us all. Lord Rimoa kneels and points at the map, indicating the city of Torgal with the tip of a slender crystal rod. After your disappearance, Lord Adamas was killed, and the allied armies were quickly ejected from Torgal. Gnag declared himself invincible, and in the wake of his victory, the Darkland defeats were soon halted throughout central Magnamond. A terrible sense of hopelessness befell the allies, which was exploited to the full by the malevolent Gnag. His sorcerers, the Nadziranim, created devices they called Tanos Tukor to enable each of the Dark Lords to survive in territories outside their accursed realm. Previously, they had been unable to survive beyond the Darklands for any great length of time, and during these rare brief excursions, their powers were greatly reduced. Now they are able to lead their armies in battle personally, and they have been eager to exercise their newfound freedom. The war against the Dark Lords is all but lost, continues Banadon, his eyes cast down at the map, which is covered with black markers, indicating the frightening number of countries Gnag has added to his empire. With the help of our allies in Duranor, Summerland has so far resisted his attempts at evasion, but now we find ourselves cut off from Duranor's aid by a blockade of Dark Lord warships. Here, he says, pointing to the Gulf of Helenag, is where Gnag has constructed a huge naval base. It is called Argazad, and it is from here that he launches his fleet of ironclad warships to blockade our coast. The Somlending navy is no match for these monstrous sea machines, and without the troops, food, and weapons we have been receiving by sea from Duranor, our days are numbered. Lord Rimoa rises to his feet and stares fixedly into your eyes. Your skill, bravery, and your vow to avenge the death of the Kai are the keys to our salvation. Only you, Lone Morv, can save us now. You are our only hope in this hour of darkness. "3 months ago, on the day that you, Somlendings, celebrate your feast of Fairman, I foresaw in a dream your return to this world, the place and the hour of your coming," says Rimoa reverently. "I and all my brothers held this dream to be a sign from the god Kai that you had not died at Torgar. Oh, we died plenty of times. And since that day we have prepared for your return so that we may help you fulfill your vow and deliver us from the tyranny of the Dark Lords. With the aid of Guildmaster Banadon, we have conceived a plan that can secure a lasting victory. Defeat of the Dark Lords on the field of battle is now impossible. The allied armies are greatly outnumbered and are hard-pressed to protect what little remains of the Freelands. The only way in which we can rid ourselves of this evil is by destroying Gnag and the Transfusor, the device that transmits power to the Tanos Tukor. Both of them are in Helgadad. To hear the name of that foul city spoken aloud is enough to send a shiver down your spine, and the thought of daring to venture there to destroy its ruler fills you with cold dread. It is a daunting task that we ask you to attempt, Lone Wolf, says Banadon, sensing your anxiety, but only you have any hope of succeeding in this desperate mission. It may be of some comfort to learn that, with the Dark Lords leading their armies in the field, the defences of the Black City are now at their weakest. Only Gnag and his second-in-command, Dark Lord Taktal, reside there at present. You spoke of a plan, you say, returning your gaze to the wise face of Lord Romoa. Without replying, he bends down and pulls out a leather sack from beneath the chair on which he sat when you entered the chamber. It contains what appears to be a mass of triangular crystals that are fused together. At once you recognize its purpose. It is a powerful charge similar to the one which Lord Adamas used to destroy the Torgal Gate. This will put paid to the transfusor, says Romoa, holding up the crystal explosive. He points to a shard that is longer than the others and informs you that the device is activated by withdrawing and reinserting its tip first into the core. It must be placed beneath the transfusor, and it will detonate exactly 15 minutes after it is primed. Carefully, he replaces the explosive into the sack and offers it to you. But how am I to gain entry to Helgadad, you ask as you accept the deadly package tentatively. We have made preparations, answers Banadon, pointing once more to the map. A caravel is anchored in Toran Harbour. Under cover of darkness, it will run the blockade, and then head east to deceive the enemy into thinking that it is bound for Duranor. When safe to do so, it will turn about and steer a course for Dejkatar. The shallows there are free of pack ice at this time of year, and the captain should be able to land you on the coast close to Arnak Estuary. From there, you must make your way on foot to the stronghold of Arnak and seek out the slave master. He is one of our agents and can be trusted. Make yourself known to him by saying the word Sommerland is burning. Sommerland is burning. He alone knows where in Helgadad the transfusor is located, and he can arrange for your safe and secret passage into the city. Once inside, you must destroy Gnag and the transfusor as quickly as possible. And once the task is complete, how then do I effect an escape, you ask? You must make your way back to Arnak. The demise of the Dark Lords will announce the success of your mission, and we shall then mount an expedition to bring you safely home. But until then, no one must know your true identity or the reason for your journey to Helgadad. Silently you contemplate the awesomeness of this mission, its dangers, and the terrible consequences that will befall Magnamon should you fail. At length you raise your eyes from the map and force a smile. When must I leave, you ask bravely. Tomorrow night, Banadon replies, an hour after sunset. We don't have the summer sword. You pass the time prior to your departure resting and reviewing the mission in fine detail. Eventually, the hour of your leaving arrives and Banadon and Romoa escort you to Toran Harbour and see you safely aboard the caravel Intrepid. Before they disembark, Banadon hands you a sealed envelope and a golden amulet on a chain. Wear this for your protection, he says, as he fastens the chain around your neck. It will keep you safe from the heat and poisonous atmospheres that pervade your destination. And the envelope, you say quizzically. Neither Captain Boss nor his volunteer crew are aware of your identity or the vital nature of your voyage. All they know is that they expected to break through the blockade and carry you safely to Duranor. When you are clear of the enemy, hand this envelope to the captain. It contains his new orders to steer a course for the Arnak Estuary. He is a fine captain. You can trust in his skill and the bravery of his crew to see you through the dangerous waters of the Kalta Sea. Moments later, the captain emerges from his cabin. A grey and grizzled old seaman. He sports a leather cloak that swings easily from his broad muscular shoulders. He welcomes you aboard with a ready smile and firm handshake, and then excuses himself in order to supervise the final preparations for the voyage. May the gods Kai and Ishia watch over you, Lone Wolf, whispers Lord Romoa, as he and Banadon make ready to disembark, and grant us lasting victory over the forces of darkness. The night wind is blowing in your favor, and Captain Borst is keen to put to sea without delay. He has ordered the crew to run up every foot of canvas the masts of the Intrepid will bear, so that she will approach the Dark Lord warships that blockade the coast at full speed. With luck, she will slip through their line before they have a chance to close formation. It is a bold plan, but the captain and his crew have run the blockade more than a dozen times in the past year, and they are confident that tonight they will also be successful. Guided by the stars and the distant glimmer of moonlit shore, the Intrepid makes rapid headway through the waters of the Toran Gulf. As it nears the open sea, you decide to offer your services as lookout and go in search of Captain Bors. You find him on the forecastle deck with a group of keen-eyed Kurlundin marines who are scanning the blackness for some sign of the enemy. You stand at the ship's rail and stare at the surrounding wall of darkness. The salty air is cold upon your face, but as you breathe deeply you detect a strangely bitter smell, like burnt sulfur, being carried on the wind. You are about to mention this to the captain when a shout rings out from the crow's nest that sends the crew into a frenzy of activity. "Blockade is dead ahead!" "Hard a port," bellows the captain, and his helmsman spins the ship's wheel frantically. 5 Darkland ironclads loom into view. They each carry a formidable array of weapons mounted on their steel-skinned decks, and protruding from the middle of each craft is a tall funnel, which belches forth a cloud of choking sulphurous smoke. As the Intrepid swerves to avoid collision, this acrid smoke wafts across the water and engulfs the crew, causing them to cough and retch violently. Suddenly, a flash of blue-white light illuminates the bow of the nearest ironclad, and a fiery projectile arcs across the sky. The missile is directly above the Intrepid when it explodes with a deafening roar. The blast slams you to the deck, and as you struggle to your feet, white-hot fragments of metal rain down upon you. The number you have picked represents the number of endurance points. Great. Amid the noise and chaos, you hear Captain Bors's strident voice issuing commands to his shell-shocked crew. Despite the fearful blast, there are miraculously few casualties, and the ship is soon brought under control. The topsails, ignited by the flash, are quickly cut away and jettisoned as the enemy vessels begin to close in for the kill. They turn to bring their weapons to bear, but the heavy iron ships are slow and cumbersome, and by the time they have changed formation, the Intrepid is out of range and sailing at speed into the dark waters of the Culta Sea. As the last of the enemy warships disappears into the dark, the crew give a rousing cheer. Once more they have risked their lives to run the blockade, and once again they live to tell the tale. The captain requests a damage report and is relieved to hear that both his ship and crew have survived the close encounter at little cost. Before leaving the forecastle, he reminds the lookouts to remain vigilant. Sometimes the enemy place a second line of ironclads a few miles behind the first in order to catch blockade runners that slip through. He bids you good night, and as he descends the stairs to his cabin, he orders the first mate to show you to your quarters at the stern. If you wish to hand the captain the envelope containing his new orders. Is that something we're supposed to do? I don't remember what this envelope is. Alright, we'll do that. "What have we here?" muses the captain warily as he accepts your envelope. "Guildmaster Banadon instructed me to deliver this into your charge as soon as we cleared the blockade." Oh, the captain doesn't yet know what we're supposed to do. I see. It contains confidential details about our voyage to Diranor. "I'm sure the matter can wait till morning," he says, slipping the envelope into the pocket of his gold-braided jacket. "You best get some sleep." "No, read it now." "We could be in for some rough water come sunrise." You insist that he read the contents of the letter without delay, but he dismisses your request with a flick of his calloused hand. "It can wait. A few hours will make no odds." "No, read it now!" he snaps, and descends the stairs before you can argue otherwise. What's going on? Is he betraying us? We'll go with the lookouts. The lookouts are naturally curious about the only passenger aboard their ship, especially as he keeps company with Guildmaster Banadon, the most highly respected magician in Summerland. They question you keenly about your mission to Duranor, but when you insist that you are sworn to secrecy, they pursue the matter no further, with you at least. You learn that they hail from the Cure London Isles, a fiefdom famed for its brave and intrepid seafarers, whose ships have protected the coasts of Summerland for more than 1,000 years. It shocks you deeply to learn that, during your exile in Ndazian, the Dark Lords have destroyed the Cure London fleet and laid to waste the once fertile isles. We'll soon free our isles from that vile Cur Gnag, growls one disgruntled sailor. The others echo his sentiment, but behind their bravado you sense they fear they may never live to see their islands free again. A brooding silence descends on the deck, and you decide it would be wise to get some rest before dawn breaks. One of the ship's mates volunteers to show you to your quarters, and you accept his help gratefully. The mate leads you through the bowels of the ship to your quarters near the stern. You are hoping for some degree of comfort, but the cabin turns out to be cramped and smelly, sandwiched between the galley and bilge. Despite the lack of space and the stomach-churning smell redolent of dead fish, you manage to catch a few hours' sleep before the grey dawn haze filters through the glass of the cabin's solitary porthole. Desperate for fresh air, you make your way up to the forecastle, where you find the captain standing alone at the rail reading the contents of the envelope. Okay, finally you read it. "'Tis a brave, risky adventure you've committed yourself to, comrade," he says, without raising his eyes from the parchment clutched in his gloved hands. "Yet these be risky times. I can only guess at what lies beyond your journey to Dejkata, but of one thing you can be sure. I will do all in my power to see you safely there." Immediately, he issues orders to turn the ship about and steer a new course, north by northwest. The crew react to the sudden change of plan with great speculation, yet despite the dangers they know they may have to face, none challenge their captain's decision or voice dissent. For 2 days and nights, the Intrepid forges a course through stormy waters, running ahead of a chill wind that sweeps down from the glaciers of Kalt in the north. The sea becomes increasingly hazardous, with sleet squalls, and lightning storms that break without warning. Yet the dawn of the third day heralds a sudden change in the weather. Fog, a windless, soundless grey, forbidding damp that cuts off eyesight at an arm's length, and leaves the crew soaked and shivering. Many stare enviously at your Kalkoth hide cloak as they attend to their early morning duties in quiet discomfort. "Curse this fog," grumbles Captain Borst, staring helplessly at the clammy mist that holds his ship becalmed. "Better a gale or a curry storm than this." For countless hours, the ship lies dormant, rocking gently on the cold, listless sea. Staring at the wall of fog, it is easy to imagine all manner of creatures lurking within. The eerie silence does little to allay the superstitious fears of the crew, and when suddenly the quiet is disturbed by a shoal of red-finned sea carp, more than one man cries out in shocked surprise. From the crow's nest there comes a scream of abject horror. Or finally something's happening. It echoes down the rigging, alerting all to a great scaly head that has broken through the surface 20 yards off the port bow. "Jargarth!" The lookout's cry is taken up by the crew, as one by one they glimpse the fearful sight of this legendary terror of the Kalta Sea. "Ishir preserve us," gasps Captain Bors as the beast opens its jaws, revealing the glitter of its jagged, razor-sharp fangs. For a moment he is stunned by the terrifying sight, but quickly he recovers and begins shouting urgent orders to his awestruck crew. "Man the ballistas! Break out the billhooks! All hands stand by to defend the ship!" The Zargath observes the commotion in silence, its hooded eyes aglow with baleful green fire as it considers the moment to attack. Then, with an awful suddenness, it rises from the sea, roaring and hissing angrily, and lunges forward. Captain Bors gives the order to fire, and a volley of ballista bolts sink into the monster's scaly throat. Undeterred, it presses its attack and falls upon the port beam with devastating effect. Tortured timbers bend and crack asunder. In seconds, the deck is torn apart by huge claws, each as long as a mammoth's tusk. Then the cavernous, fang-filled mouth sweeps down through the fog to snap shut upon the forecastle. Screams of pain and terror fill the air as it withdraws, soaring upward above the masts, jaws bulging with a dozen wriggling bodies. You take cover behind the ship's longboat with the captain and prepare to defend yourself as the Zargath returns for a second strike. Sure, we'll use the bow. You load and take aim at the beast's massive head as it swings low across the deck. We've got so many arrows, look at that. Smashing and crushing all before it. Its scaly hide looks as tough as steel plate, and you search desperately for a part that may be vulnerable to an arrow. Your heart pounds and your face is drenched in cold sweat as the Zargath, its jaws agape, swings back its head and lunges straight at you. The great sea beast roars, and a blast of putrid breath blows you away from the longboat, rolling you over and over like a leaf in a storm. Pain lances through your shoulder as you glance off the mainmast and crash against the ship's starboard rail. Your bow is still gripped firmly in your hand, and as you struggle to your feet, you draw a fresh arrow and take aim once more at the monster's head. Go for the eye. Your arrow spirals towards the Zargath's eye, and to your astonishment splinters to matchwood against its stone-hard cornea. Cursing your misfortune, you reach for a hand weapon as the creature advances unceasingly, its jaws widening as it prepares to swallow you whole. The creature strikes, and you dive aside inches from a gruesome death in its powerful jaws. Snapping repeatedly, it twists its supple neck to follow your escape across the shattered, body-strewn planks, and lunges again when you reach the stairs that lead to the stern deck. This time you save your skin by pulling yourself into the rigging, and as you are climbing aloft, you see the Zargath crash through the stairs and into the hull. It tries to withdraw its head, but it cannot. It is held firm, trapped among these splintered timbers. This may be your only opportunity to defeat its terror before it breaks free and drags the ship to the bottom of the sea. Alright, we'll attack it. Oh, wow. You swing clear of the rigging and leap astride the Zargath's neck, but it senses your presence and twists and bucks like a wild stallion to unseat you. Grimly, you cling to its scaly hide, stabbing repeatedly at its ears and spine in the hope of disabling it before it breaks free. In desperation, it tries to dislodge you, using its massive foreclaws to scratch at its neck in an attempt to hook you away. Oh, it's got 100 endurance? So there's a footnote here. Alright. 100 endurance. Combat ratio 13. So it should be alright. Dead. One-shotted. You strike your killing blow and leap to the deck as with a final burst of strength, the Zargath pulls its head free of the wreckage. Its green eyes roll back in their sockets and it lets out a scream so loud that you are forced to cover your ears for fear of being permanently deafened. The scream grows louder until, with a mighty splash, the creature topples sideways and rolls off the deck into the fog-wreathed sea. The Zargath sinks swiftly beneath the icy waters. Its tail breaks the surface and slaps the swirling foam, and then it too is gone, trailing the creature's lifeless body as it spirals 100 fathoms to its final resting place at the bottom of the Kauta Sea. An eerie silence descends upon the shattered decks of the Intrepid as the few who have survived the attack stare in horror at the swirling, blood-stained sea. Then begin the cries of the injured, and those who are still able to stand begin the grim task of recovering bodies and staunching wounds. You help with the search and find Captain Bors lying near the ship's longboat. He is unconscious and badly injured. Both his legs have been broken at the thigh by one swipe of the monster's tail. You attempt to revive him with your basic Kai healing skills, but he is in deep shock and does not respond. Oh my god! Right. Shock as a result of his severe leg injuries have reduced the captain's blood pressure to a dangerously low level. Your mastery of the discipline of curing enables him to increase his blood pressure gently to ensure that his brain is not starved of its vital supply of oxygen. Once he is stable, the first mate, whose name is Davan, helps you splint the captain's legs and construct a makeshift stretcher on which to carry him to his cabin. Slowly he regains consciousness, and although he is in great pain, he insists on speaking. Davan, he says through gritted teeth, the ship's under your command now. You must do all you can to see that our passenger reaches his destination. Dutifully, the first mate promises to obey the captain's order. Open the chest, the captain says, motioning his eyes to a large casket resting at the foot of his bunk. You oblige and discover that it contains a vest made of finely crafted bone-in chainmail and a pair of engraved silver braces designed to protect the forearms during combat. Take them, friend, he says. They may be of some help to you on your journey. The bone-in vest adds 3 points to your combat skill and 1 to your endurance. It may be worn with a padded leather waistcoat, but not with a chainmail waistcoat. The silver braces add 2 points to your combat skill and 1 to your endurance. Wow. Sure, we'll wear them. Well, our combat skill is now 28? Wow, okay. Totally needed that. We need the shield as well. The shield added 2. Before you can thank the captain for his generosity, he lapses into a merciful unconsciousness that spares him the pain of his injuries. Having done what you can to make him comfortable, you return to the deck to survey the damage. Over half the crew have been killed or injured in the attack, and the ship herself is badly mauled. The mainmast is down, the sails hang in tatters, and there's a gaping hole that stretches along the port beam to within a few feet of the waterline. We can patch up the canvas and work the ship on a skeleton crew, says Davan, peering over the splintered rail. But if we catch a storm this far out to sea, we're all done for. For the following 2 days and nights, the Intrepid remains a prisoner of the windless fog. Davan and his crewmen work tirelessly to repair the ship, and come the morning of the 3rd day, when a gentle breeze arises with the dawn, the mainmast is secure and the sails are patched and ready to carry the ship onward. With the port side still holed and storms a constant threat in the open reaches of the Calta Sea, it has been decided that the safest course to steer is towards the coast. Then, should a sudden squall threaten or a gale arise, the ship could run to shelter in one of the hundreds of coves that indent the rugged shore east of Point Vashna. However, to sail along this stretch of coastline is to risk hazards that could prove as dangerous as any storm. Darkland ironclads, unstable in high seas, favor the coast when venturing to and from their base at Argazad, and the cliffs and shores themselves are peppered with watchtowers and jack encampments. Bloody jack! By early afternoon, the fog has cleared, and the Intrepid is making good headway through the cold, sparkling waves. League after glittering league fall away to the stern until an hour or 2 before sunset, the lookout catches sight of the coast. "Land ahoy!" he calls. "Land afore the bow!" The crew are cheered by the news, feeling safer now that they are within sight of land. But they're... For fuck's sake, there's a mosquito. The crew are cheered by the news, feeling safer now that they are within sight of land, but their spirits are soon dampened when the lookout calls out again, this time in alarm. "Enemy off the starboard bow!" Great. Well, we got a good combat ratio now. Almost invisible against the horizon of black cliffs and cloudy grey skies are 2 enemy warships, anchored a few hundred yards offshore. At first they look deserted, then the sudden clang of alarm bells and the appearance of huge clouds of yellow smoke from their funnels indicate that they are manned, and they intend to give chase. Our only chance is to outrun them, says Devan, his eyes narrowing as he surveys the ironclads hauling their anchors and turning about. At his command, the crews spring into action, breaking their backs to coax every last knot of speed from their battered ship. But their winds are against them, and the enemy, not reliant on sails for their propulsion, are soon closing the gap. "Prepare to repel boarders," shouts Devan as an ironclad draws alongside. Hastily, they abandon their attempt to outrun the enemy and draw weapons in readiness to receive a unit of leather-clad Drakarim Marines who are poised to spring aboard the very moment the 2 vessels collide. Then, with a resounding crash, the ironclad smashes into the side of the Intrepid, and the enemy come scrambling over the rail, screaming and howling like a pack of demons. One of their numbers singles you out. He strides forward, his black blades swinging viciously as he attempts to cleave your skull in 2. Owing to the speed of his attack, you are unable to make use of a bow. Alright, easy enough. You leap over the body of your slain enemy and rush to help Devan, who is being driven back across the deck by 3 snarling Drakarim. "For Summerland," you cry as you launch your attack, felling 2 of his adversaries with a single sweeping blow. Deftly he puts paid to the 3rd, and together you advance towards the stern where the enemy are attempting to capture the helm. Already several of the crew lie bleeding on the deck, and although they fight bravely, they are no match for the vicious Drakarim Marines. At the foot of the makeshift stairs that ascend to the stern deck, you are confronted by the leader of the enemy's assault team. Okak Gaz Egor, he growls, his evil eyes glinting through the slits in his studded leather battle mask. Shez Okak Nogchat Ash Gagod Gadjog Okak Ades. With that, he lifts his reddened axe and strides forward to meet your advance. Alright. How are we doing? 21 health, we're okay. The sergeant crashes lifelessly to the deck, and for a few moments, the troops that were fighting by his side stare down at his body in shocked disbelief. For 6 years he had led them to glory, his battle skills and cunning ensuring their survival, and now he lies dead, killed by Som Lending. Taking advantage of their stunned state, you cleave a path up the staircase and force your way towards the helm. You are within 10 feet of the ship's wheel when Devan screams a warning. "Archer above you!" You glance up into the rigging, and a cold spike of fear stabs your heart when you glimpse the gloating face of a Drakarim Marine. With one hand he holds a bow, and with the other he draws back an arrow to his chin. He mouths a curse and lets fly the deadly shaft. You twist aside, and the arrow thuds harmlessly into the deck. The archer bares his teeth as he reaches for another arrow, but before he can fire again, his aim is spoiled by 2 of his comrades, who rush forward to hack at you with axe and sword. Devan protects your back, holding off the Marines who are attempting to climb the stairs. You evade the first blows of your enemies, sidestepping a lunge and ducking a wild swipe, and then strike back with deadly speed and unerring accuracy. Both scream and fall simultaneously, dying with a look of surprise fixed on their cruel faces. With a swift and graceful movement, you snatch a dagger from the belt of one of your dead foes. Do I get to keep the dagger? Spin on your heel and fling it at the archer above. I guess not. Before he has a chance to fire another arrow. It sinks hilt deep into his chest, sending him tumbling backwards into the black waters of the Kalta Sea. With the stern deck now cleared of the enemy, you grab the helm and attempt to steer the ship away from the ironclad. The second enemy vessel is closing fast, and you fear that the Intrepid will be smashed to driftwood if caught between the two. You spin the ship's wheel to starboard and pray for the wind to fill her sails and carry her clear of the first enemy vessel. Anxiously, you glance at the second ironclad steaming directly towards the stern with unnerving speed, its deck crammed with more troops poised to leap aboard. At first, the Intrepid responds to the rudder and you feel her swing about, but the escape is short-lived. The Dracarum have secured her with hooks and ropes and she cannot break free. With a shuddering crash, the ironclad rams the side, knocking everyone off their feet. You are sent reeling across the deck as the enemy craft plows deep into the hull, demolishing the steerage and carrying away a large section of the stern. Icy water thunders into the hold, and immediately the ship begins to founder. Dog Ash Razar, bellow the enemy as they climb towards the deck, jostling and bullying each other in their eagerness to begin the battle. Their leader, a bull-necked brute armed with dirk and scimitar, is the first to appear at the rail. He pulls himself onto the deck and comes rushing forward, his eyes wide with blood frenzy as he prepares to strike you down. You draw an arrow and take aim at the Dracarum leader's chest. He laughs contemptuously at your bow, as if it were no more dangerous than a child's toy. Then he draws back his blade and takes aim at your neck. Your adversary is a little more than a few feet away when you release your bowstring to send an arrow striking towards his chest. It hits with terrific force, but to your utter amazement, it fails to penetrate his flesh. The shaft shatters into a dozen harmless shards. With a scream of gleeful vengeance, the Dracarum officer swings his scimitar down to cleave your neck in two. Instinct alone saves you from its razor-sharp edge. Immediately, he strikes again, swinging his blade back in a vicious arc that is aimed at your throat. You block the blow, but it costs you your bow, chopped almost in half, as it stops the blade barely inches from your chin. Hurriedly, you fumble for a hand weapon as he steadies himself to strike again. We must fight the first round unarmed. So we lost our bow? And all our arrows? What? Come on. It doesn't say that. You delete the weapon, but not the arrows. If I get a bow back, I'm hacking the arrows back in, because you're not supposed to delete the arrows. Why did it delete all my arrows? Oh, we don't have a bow right now. We're at 14 health. The Dracarum officer staggers and falls, clutching his wounds and cursing you with his dying breath. But no sooner has his body hit the planks than his troops come rushing towards you from all sides. "Shez Doktot!" they scream, howling with primal fury, their teeth bared and their faces contorted with rage. We're dead. Okay. Alright, start again. Minus 10, damn it. Alright, so we do the beginning bits. We don't have the summer sword. Get all this stuff. Alright. Not much we can do here, we just have to... We should hand the captain the envelope. We'll do all this. Use the bow against that, sure. Not the eye. Maybe the mouth? You release the bowstring and send the arrow whistling deep into the Zargoth's cavernous mouth, causing the monster to twist its head and hiss like a steam vent. But still it advances undeterred. Cursing your misfortune, you shoulder your bow and draw a hand weapon. Interesting. Definitely take these. Alright, and now we're back in this fight. This goes on for quite a while. We are equipping these things, aren't we? Yeah, we are. You raise your arm and lash out at the speeding shaft, hoping to turn it aside on the edge of your weapon, but it ricochets towards you, gouging a furrow of skin and hair from your scalp. The archer fires again, but this time you manage to twist aside and the arrow thuds harmlessly into the deck. He curses and bares his teeth as he reaches for yet another arrow, but before he can fire again, his aim is spoiled by two of his comrades who rush forwards to hack at you with axe and sword. Davan protects your back, holding off the marines who are attempting to climb the stairs. You evade the first blows of your enemies, sidestepping a lunge and ducking wild swipe, and then strike back with deadly speed and unerring accuracy. Both scream and fall simultaneously, dying with a look of surprise fixed on their cruel faces. And then we do this. Don't use the bow, because you just lose the bow. Alright. Just kill him. The Drakkar gurgles his death cry and falls heavily to the deck, his scimitar still clasped firmly in his hand. Then the first of his troops appear at the rail. For a moment they hesitate when they see their officer lying dead, but shock soon turns to fury. "Shez Dok Tot!" they scream as they thunder towards you, murder blazing in their cruel eyes. Come at me. Oh, I'm actually gonna die here. Come on. I could have used the potion. This is with the max combat skill and the vests that he gave us, so it's quite hard. But not impossible. You throw yourself to the deck as the missile drops like a meteor from the sky. It passes overhead between the main and mizzen masts, and then hits the water with a tremendous splash. The other enemy vessels start to turn to bring their weapons to bear, but the heavy iron ships are slow and cumbersome, and by the time they've altered position, the Intrepid is out of range and sailing at speed into the dully gleaming waters of the Cultus Sea. Try aim for the ear then. As you fight to stay on your feet, the beast bears down, tilting its head from side to side, revealing just a glimpse of your target. Guided by instinct alone, you raise your bow and fire. It's the same thing. All right. So you should go for the ear. Alright, don't use the bow. But we want to evade the attack because we're going to die otherwise. You leap from the stern deck and land near the foot of the stairs. Water is pouring into the Intrepid at a terrific rate, causing her to list heavily to starboard. "Abandoned ship!" cries Davan, his strong voice carrying above the clangor of striking swords and dying men. As he rushes past you, followed closely by two Cur Londons, he urges you to save yourself before the ship goes down. To stay would be suicidal, and you quickly follow his lead. The deck heaves and shudders, and the metallic whir of the ironclad's engine rises to a deafening roar as it fights to extricate itself from the stern of the sinking Intrepid. Then a war horn blares, signaling to the enemy troops to break off their attack and return to their vessels. Everywhere you look, Drakkarian marines and Somlending crewmen are sheathing their weapons and scrambling towards the ship's rail. Clouds of acrid yellow smoke waft across the decks, adding to the chaos and confusion as scores of men hurl themselves into the dark waves of the Cultus Sea. "Jump!" shouts Devan. "But what about the captain?" you reply anxiously. "Forget the captain," he says, pointing at the enemy craft. "No one can help him now. The ironclad that rammed our stern completely demolished his cabin. No one could have lived through that." You pull yourself over the rail and wait for the smoke to thin before you leap. The Intrepid lurches violently, and before you can stop yourself, you slip and fall headfirst into the swirling yellow smog. You hit the water with a mighty splash and sink like a stone beneath the icy cold waves. Yet the sudden shock serves to revive your battle-weary muscles, and quickly you strike out for the surface. You emerge from the depths beside the hull of the enemy ironclad, which is slowly pulling away from the wreck of the Intrepid. The heads of the rivets, which protrude all along its steel bow, offer a secure handhold for your numb fingers and enable you to drag yourself onto the shallow deck. You have barely caught your breath when the Drakkarian sailor, armed with a billhook, rushes forward and lunges at your head. Quite hurt. The force of your killing blow sends the Drakkar reeling backwards across the deck. He collides with another sailor who is coming to his aid and knocks him headlong into the sea. You brace yourself in case there is another waiting to rush at you, but the smoke from the vessel's funnel is so thick, and the other Drakkarian are so preoccupied with hooking their marines out of the water, that they fail to notice you creeping towards the wheelhouse near the middle of the deck. A steel door swings open at your approach, and 3 hefty Drakkarian confront you on the threshold. You parry one's blade, take the second in the chest, and see the third spin sideways, trailing scarlet spray from the fatal wound you have dealt him. A quick thrust to the heart puts paid to the remaining sailor. He screams and falls through the doorway, tumbling down an iron staircase that descends into noise-filled darkness. Right on the deck. Stealthily, you move away from the door, raising the hood of your cape to hide your face. Beyond the wheelhouse, you see a large tube of steel mounted horizontally on a circular platform. It is attended by 3 Drakkarian who are busy loading a heavy pear-shaped projectile into a chamber at the rear of the tube. A large wooden crate filled with several more projectiles lies open at their feet. Their captain, his rank denoted by the silver braid that decorates the sleeves of his battle jacket, is pointing to the sinking Intrepid and shouting excitedly, "Gaz Muzar Oke Razar, Shada Egina Gag." They're probably going to see me. Let's take a potion. Silently, you watch as the great tube is gradually lowered by means of ratchets and gears until it is pointing directly at the waterline of the Intrepid. It seems a pointless exercise. The ship is sinking so quickly that to fire upon it now would seem to be wasteful. Then suddenly you realize what the enemy captain is planning to do. The thought of it stirs you to anger. What is he planning to do? Devan and the remnants of his crew are clinging in desperation to the flotsam that surrounds their dying ship. Many are wounded, and their pitiful cries for help can clearly be heard aboard the Drakkarian ironclad. The enemy captain watches them through narrowed eyes, an evil sneer spreading slowly across his brutal face as he reaches for the mechanism that will launch a fire missile into their midst. He's aiming at the drowning sailors. That's against the Geneva Convention. Let's fire a bow. The captain arches his back and screams in agony as your arrow drives deep into his spine. Immediately, 2 Dracarim gunners rush forward to help him, but as soon as they realize that he is dead, they spin around to confront you. Your first arrow pierces a heart, but your second is deflected by a steel breastplate. Before you have a chance to fire again, the surviving gunner is upon you, his short sword unsheathed and ready to stab at your chest. Dead. The deck is shrouded in smoke, but the sound of heavy boots pounding steel plate warns you that a group of Dracarim Marines are approaching, drawn by their comrades' dying screams. Acting on instinct, you grab the rear of the cannon and revolve it on its mounting until it points directly at the deck. A dozen angry Marines emerge from the smoke, and their faces freeze in terror when they find themselves staring into the muzzle of their own formidable weapon. "Death to the Dark Lords," you cry, and pull the firing lever. There is a loud bang, and a wave of heat rolls over you as the cannon spits its deadly missile at the advancing Dracarim. It bores through their ranks and slams into the wheelhouse with shuddering force. Jets of yellow flame roar from a jagged hole, illuminating the grim remains of what a moment before were enemy Marines. Then the deck jumps up and slaps the soles of your feet. The missile has penetrated the ironclad's magazine, and in an instant, the vessel is blown apart. The last thing you remember before darkness obliterates your senses is an eye-searing flash of white and scarlet fire. You know what? We never looked at the map. Let's look at the map. There's Helgadad. There's Holmgard. So, Monastery is right there. And we are... like... on the Kalta Sea, basically. Trying to come in here. Slowly, as though awakening from a dream, you return to consciousness. Through half-open eyes, you stare at a darkening sky and feel the cold waves of the Kalta Sea lapping at your feet. Every inch of your body aches viciously. It is as if your flesh were one vast bruise, but at once you know that your body is intact and that miraculously you have escaped serious injury. You are lying in a cup-shaped piece of wreckage that was once part of the ironclad's bow. On the horizon there is now only one ship, the ironclad that first attacked the Intrepid. It is silhouetted against the wall of oily flame that marks the place where its sister craft exploded. The tide has carried you away from the carnage, and turning your head stiffly you see that the shore lies less than 100 yards away. The tide is carrying you towards a long grey cliff line made ominous by the flickering glow of burning battle debris. A flock of ugly black birds circle overhead. They dive repeatedly to retrieve carrion, and then soar away to their nests in the cliff wall. 2 of the evil-looking creatures swoop down on you, mistaking your still form for a ready feast, and attempt to tear the skin from your face with their razor-sharp beaks. You aim and fire, sending your arrow clean through the breast of the first bird and clipping the wingtip of the second as it whistles skyward. It shrieks in alarm, but rather than take fright and fly away, it banks over and dives for your eyes, determined to exact revenge for the death of its mate. The bird approaches at an incredible speed, its black body difficult to make out against the darkening cloud. Pick a number. Your keen eyes track the speeding bird, and effortlessly you shoot it from the sky. Are these birds dangerous or something? Why are we bothering with them? It caws in pain and splashes into the sea less than an arm's length from your makeshift life raft, enabling you to retrieve your arrow. Okay. How many arrows have we got? Ooh, still got 9. So it's actually good that we had so many. The tide bears you swiftly towards a shingle beach, which is littered with huge sea-smoothed boulders. The hissing surf and the screech of the loathsome sea scavengers echo all along this barren coastline. It is an unwelcoming sound, cold and hostile, a fitting reflection of the land itself. 10 yards from the stony beach, you slip into the thigh-deep foam and wade ashore. Night has fallen swiftly, but there is a full moon by which to see. It pierces the darkness and bathes the landscape in its ghostly, ashen light. Crouching low, you scurry up the beach, using the boulders as cover as you head towards the base of a sheer cliff wall. You are nearing your goal when the sounds of footsteps and gruff voices stop you dead in your tracks. It is a patrol of Jack soldiers. Drawn from their cliff-top encampment, having witnessed the Battle of Sea, at sea, they are searching the water's edge for survivors. The tips of their spears glint wetly crimson in the moonlight, alerting you to the fate that has befallen those of Davan's crew who managed to swim ashore. Oxy Orgadak, growls one of the leading scouts, pointing in your direction. You duck behind a boulder, and then immediately begin crawling on your stomach towards another large rock. Slippery shingle aids your progress, but the scrunching sound of enemy footfalls is growing ever louder, and you begin to fear that they will catch up with you before you can slip away. Oxy Orkak, whispers a Jack scout, a sneer spreading slowly across his ugly face. He has scrambled onto a boulder, and using his infravision, he has caught sight of you crawling towards the cliffs. Your sixth sense informs you that you have been spotted. To continue to crawl is futile, so you scramble to your feet and sprint towards a V-shaped cleft that marks the start of a steep trail. You have taken less than a dozen strides when three squat shapes loom out of the shadows ahead. They are Jacks armed and ready for combat. Dead. 3 times you struck a blow, and 3 times Jack heart beat its last. Now, without pausing, even to catch your breath, you take off along the trail and begin the steep climb towards the cliff top. Angry shouts and curses echo in your wake, alerting another party of Jacks on the cliffs above to your presence. They race to the end of the trail and await your appearance, determined to catch you and then kill you at their leisure. You sense the danger and leave the steep trail at the first opportunity. You wait for your pursuers to pass and then double back to the beach. By the time the Jacks realize that you are no longer climbing the trail, it is too late for them to catch up. You are on the beach, more than a mile away to the north. After following the coastline northlands for an hour, you happen upon a narrow path that rises from the beach and zigzags up to the top of the cliffs. The path appears deserted, and you decide to use it rather than risk being caught by the rising tide. The climb to the top is long and arduous, and by the time you reach the peak, the weather has taken a turn for the worse. An icy, rain-laden wind whips inland from the sea, its chilling bite accompanied by sheet lightning that illuminates the stark landscape before you. The blue-white flash reveals a vast dead world of pitted spurs and crags, where every tree is petrified and every rock looks like a dead man's skull. You pull your warm cape close about your shoulders and set off towards a ridge that is peppered with dark hollows. You pray that one of them will offer some shelter from the coming storm. Upon reaching the ridge, you discover that most of the hollows are merely patches of dark earth sandwiched between the honeycombed rock. The rain has become torrential, and you are about to abandon all hope of finding dry shelter when suddenly your tracking instincts alert you to a cave-like opening at the far end of the ridge. You investigate and discover that it is indeed the entrance to a cave, one that is both wind and watertight, and to your relief quite empty. The fatigue of your ordeal is dulling your senses and making it increasingly difficult to keep your eyes open. So using your backpack for a pillow, you settle down and slip readily into a deep sleep. However, it seems as though you have only just closed your eyes when a strange snickering sound stirs you to wakefulness. Crouching at the entrance to the cave and silhouetted by the flashes of storm lightning is a hulking creature with yellow cat-like eyes. It emits a hungry growl and leaps at your prone body, hoping to crush you beneath its huge bulk. But your reflexes thwart its aim. You roll aside and jump to your feet as it hits the ground, which shudders beneath the vast stone weight. Quite quickly, the creature recovers and leaps once more, its hairy, lipless mouth opening in anticipation. The creature thrashes the last of its death throes and then falls silent, its great bulk all but filling the entrance to the cave. The stench of spilt blood and the greasy, dirt-encrusted hair that covers its torso makes your stomach churn. Yet the Egorg's body is serving a useful purpose. Not only is it keeping the icy cold wind and rain at bay, but any other creature wanting to attack you would have great difficulty entering the cave. Confident that you are unlikely to be disturbed again, you settle down to a much-needed sleep. Dawn arrives, its hazy light barely brightening the banks of grey cloud that swirl above this bleak and desolate land. The rain has ceased, but the cold winds still blow strongly, bringing patches of frost that whiten the stony soil. You check your equipment and take stock of your provisions before setting off towards a distant line of hills. You are aware that the dawn light has increased the chances of your being found by a jack patrol should you stay too long in any one place, especially so near to the shore. It is nearly noon when you finally reach the top of the ridge and stare down at the valley that lies beyond. It is a barren landscape of endless pits and crags, jagged boulders and scree. A rough, foot-worn track follows a stream that winds its way back to its source, deep among a towering range of mountains that dominates the horizon. Using your map and your kite tracking and hunting skills, you conclude that the mountains are the northwestern tip of Dern Crag Range. Oh. So we're just here? I mean, that's quite close to the Kai Monastery, isn't it? Oh. Oh, probably up here. Beyond them must lie the Gulf of Helenag and the Dark Lord naval base of Argazat. A feeling of dread overwhelms you as you realize that more than 300 miles of hostile terrain lie between you and Arnak, the stronghold where you are to rendezvous with the slave master. Silently you stare at the forbidding mountains and rack your brains for a solution to your predicament. At length you formulate a new plan of action. I feel like I want to stop here for today. I don't want to spend too long on these streams. Just make them about an hour long each. That'll give my throat a rest. And space it out a bit. I'll make a save here. Wait, how do we save? Oh. Go to settings. Yeah, there we are. Alright, we'll stop there. That's a good place to stop because it's sort of like we've assessed where we are. We are around here, I think. So we're trying to cross this terrain to Arnak. That's 150 miles. So yeah. So we're around Gargazad, I guess. It's probably... Yeah, alright. Getting there. Check out the big map. So around, like, here, I guess. All right. That's it for today. See you next time.